All right, so far we've unwrapped everything up to the hair here. So let's go ahead and select these out so I can show you what I'm talking about. So you can see it's all sitting here. Only thing left is the hair. So let's go ahead and knock that out. So I'm going to select this piece and this one and hit Control I to inverse and then H to hide. Now, whenever you're doing something as complicated as like, say this, for example, right? Actually, let's hide this as well. And you're like, wow, I don't even know where to start with this. Well, there's a couple reasons why what we do is we use that philosophy of unwrapping things that are on a specific plane and then breaking those apart. So wherever there's a plane change. So for example, this front part of our hair here is on a plane, right? And when I look at the default kind of chunky unwrap that exists, so if I select all of this, like I'll hit L to select it all and I'll hit U in here, I kind of just look at whatever it gives me just to see how, um, without doing the plane change method, I get. And I can tell right off the bat, like if you look how big these particular faces are in comparison to everything else, you see how it squished them all here? So we need to start breaking these pieces apart. So the first thing I want to do is, because I consider this a front plane, a flat plane, and that's why it's also kind of important to unwrap um, inside of this low poly version mode before we apply our subdivision modifier. So I'm going to hit 2 to go to edge mode and hold Alt. Select that edge, Alt Shift, and I'm just going to select all the edges that make up this front face, and then hit Control E in here and then mark that seam. And then I'll press L. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to be in face mode for that. L, and then hit U to unwrap that. And you can see now it looks more like the front of my face there, right? So let's move this up here. And another way is if I'm selecting all these faces, if you find this easier, and you hit 2 to go to edge mode, you can see it selects all those, and you can deselect these inside edges by holding Control. So it's kind of another way of doing it. And then you can mark seam there, right? And just keep unwrapping these bits. It looks like I forgot to, I might have marked a seam that I didn't want, which is that one right there. It's a lot better. I'm going to move that up here. Now you can, I mean, because these faces form sort of a box, you could go in here and select the edges and treat this like a box, and then just stitch those together, right? And then select this whole chunk now, unfold that, and what you get is essentially the same shape, but it starts to rotate out until you get this other shape in there. So what I generally do is, unless I know that I'm going to be painting like I'm going to be updating this in Photoshop or something, and I need to really clarify that seam, I'll usually just leave them detached for now. So this big chunk of hair here, um, you could actually, because it's almost like even though this is a plane change, ideally I would cut this and then the back and leave them as separate pieces. You know, let's just do it that way. So let's select these two edges, Control E, and what I'll do is just really quickly um, just go through all of this, the same method as before, select all these faces, go to edge mode, And I'm going to leave this face. Well, you know what? I might just, because this face kind of just will flip up with it because we have all these deleted geometry here, right? See, we just have this stuff in here. I'm going to leave that all as one chunk here. So let's make sure that's cut all the way around. And then I could just unfold that. And that actually unfolded pretty cleanly. And just sort of packing that together. Actually, the bottom is there. And then this last bit here just needs to be unfolded. It's just that junk on the inside. Now this is going to be weird. If we unfold this, you'll see that yeah, so we have to sort of do the same methodology in here. Anything on these inside faces, we could almost treat as its own bit. Let's see, what do we have going on here? And these faces, because they are essentially covered up by the head, right? Well, I guess you would see that from the back, so we'll leave that in there. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and just throw those cuts in really quick. Control I and then hide everything but that. And what I'm going to do too is I'm going to hide my subdivision so I could see those overlapping pieces a little bit better. See how it makes it like nice and boxy. This face I could totally delete. That's not going to be seen. All right, so what am I doing here? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and select all these edges that make this loop around. So there's already a deleted face here, so there's no need to mark seam there. So I'll mark that seam, and let's see. I'm going to leave this edge connected. I'm going to mark a seam here. And that way when we go to unfold this, these faces will flip out. Well, I'll just show you. So I'm going to hit L. Looks like it's still connected somewhere. Let's see. No, I'd set to be in face mode. So let's go ahead and hit unfold. And we're getting weirdness coming around this way, so I'll just go ahead and cut this edge, which is this hidden geometry up here. Yeah, because that face is sort of running into this. I'm going to just go ahead and delete that face. So it's just some extra stuff. And now I could just unfold both of these guys, scale that down. And you want to look for, when you're going to unwrap this, bits like this where you can hide you could place it inside of there to make your UVs more compact. All right, let's see what is left here. We have that. And I think, is that all of it? Let's see. Yeah, that's the entire head. All right, the last thing we're going to do is that little bit of hair on the side. You have to forgive the tired voice. It's actually 4 a.m. where I'm at. My computer clock isn't updated. So what you'll notice here is if I go to edit mode, all of these inside faces with the exception of maybe this guy, I want to delete, that little guy there, right? So I'm going to go to object mode here. And then I'm going to do Control I and then hide and then edit mode and then just select H and delete. So, or X rather, and then delete these faces. Looks good. And then this lima bean thing, because it's shaped like a box. I'm going to do the same thing as before. Select these two faces here, and then these two on the bottom, and then one more on the top. And then see how I'm essentially just selecting these edges that are already there. See that? And then I'm going to mark those seams. And then now when I go to do this, I'm going to go ahead and hit L to select all, and then U, and you see we essentially have the same shape, but it's more indicative to the style or the face of this thing. Now, the other thing I want to point out, and I know I pointed this out in a previous video, is that when we go to smooth this out, right? So let's go to apply, and then let's go to edit mode again. Notice that it updated the edge loops and stuff for it. But you have to be careful with things like this, that you hit U again, and that the shape is truly what it should be, like this. So this one was a kind of a good example. It wasn't that far off from what it was supposed to be. All right, let's go ahead and Alt H and let's combine all this. So I want to make the hair and the head one object. So I'm going to hit Control J on all those, and that should be the head here. Now notice because it mirrored it because we didn't apply those modifier changes, right? So we can apply the subdivisions. I can apply this stuff here. Let's double check with all these. They're all there. And then Control J. For this shirt, I'm going to apply this stuff, this shirt and the hands and stuff. I'm going to hit Control J on that. It looks like these didn't hit. These guys weren't applied, and this guy's missing these. So anything that's essentially one group, I usually like make it one object for rigging. And then same thing with this. Let's hit apply for the mirror and apply. And then these are one piece. All right, so let's quickly select all of that, go to edit mode, and let's get this all inside of here. So for the hair, I'm just going to hit S to scale this down. And then I'm going to just move it to the corner, to the right corner. And some of this stuff we really can just pack inside of here, right? So this inside thing here, I can rotate it and then just move it inside of here and scale that down a little bit. Now the thing with this character is his hair isn't really just going to be one flat color. So these pieces really just need to fit together, right? Like they just need to be somewhat of the same scale. A lot of times you'll see in tutorials where they'll place a number box system to make sure there's no rear stretching. I know on this particular model there isn't going to be a lot of stretching, or and then actually I'm going to go even more compact. I'm going to pack this down in here. So you're just kind of looking at ways to make these all a box. All right, and I'm viewing this as more of a mobile game. So, and I know I have a texture there, but we're going to update all of that in a second. So, and I guess we could just keep it in the same sort of structure, which is what I like to do. So keep the head there, for example. And then I believe this is the ear. All right, and let's see, here's this hair bit here. All right, so this is the hands. Let's see. So Control L, so we make sure that we get all of those pants. Let's see, if I hit U on that, looks like it didn't retain. Oh, because of the cut there. It welded those as one object. And I'm going to clean up that. See, there's a little bit of weirdness going on there. So if I hit L on this one, yeah, it made it one chunk. So with this, I'm just going to scale that in. This, it changed the shape a little bit. And then let's see, what do we got going on here? Control L. If you hit U, you can see that it's all welded together. Something like this. And because his face is going to take up most of the interaction at this level, I want to put most of the UV space to that. All right, let's get the tie in here. I have this empty hole here, so I'm going to put this in here. And right now I'm just fitting things in, right? It's like just trying to pack all these pieces together, and then I just sort of like Tetris move it to try to get it even more in there tightly. This really could just be tiny. It's barely even seen. I really could just delete this, but because I have a sliver there, and I don't know if I'm going to use this to swap out with other characters. This jacket, because I'd like to reuse this character as much as I can. If you're thinking about this, you're like, well, you're making an entire game by yourself, right? Essentially, and so no, ordinarily, like I said, if I wasn't recording videos and stuff of this process, I'd probably go in and I would cut this foot in half and I'd further compartmentalize these UVs. But for now, just because I'm trying to demo the basics, like this is going to be your first basics character, doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. We're going to do probably a more advanced cartoony character next, and we'll do maybe some, we'll do a facial rig because we're going to be modeling out an entire face. So this is by no means the most perfect unwrap, right? Like this should be a little bit cleaner and taller. Same thing with these pants and stuff. I can go in there and further refine the topology of the body. This needs to be nudged over too. It's like sitting too close to the edge. But overall, like this is okay for what we're doing. It's a nice, fast prototype. And I think for this tutorial, I was planning on taking this into Substance Painter, but I think I want to do it with things, all tools that you can essentially get for free off the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and save this guy. And then what we'll do in the next video is we'll go and do a quick painting pass on our model. We'll bring our reference back in. And yeah, I think that would be cool. All right, that's the end of this video.